For 7 decades, AMES Australia has been supporting migrants and refugees to settle in Australia. From small beginnings, teaching English to new Australians in migrant camps, we've grown into a leading settlement support agency delivering a wide range of programs that have helped migrants set out new lives in a new country. AMES Australia's work has underpinned our nation's great multicultural experiment, which has helped deliver economic prosperity, social and cultural transformation, and high levels of social cohesion. In 1951, our organisation was created to help in the great nation-building experiment that has been Australia's immigration program. Since then, through English language tuition, settlement support services and our employment and training programs, we've been playing a key role in ensuring migrants and refugees find their places in our society.
We've really become part of the fabric that is now multicultural Victoria, multicultural Australia, and something that we can all be incredibly proud of. And if I think back to those very early years, not that I was here, but listening to stories from staff and others in the community who recall AMES back then, we were very much part of that sort of pioneering wave of teaching English to people as they first arrived in the big nation-building push post Second World War. Literally meeting boats at Station Pier and the men going off to work in Ford factory and Smorgon Steel and all of those massive big industries at the time. At its heart, people welcoming migrants to Australia and opening up their hearts and in some cases probably homes to make sure people could settle, find work, understand the local community, and really just become part of what we now know is a rich, diverse community. And for AMES over those years, again, if I look back and think about how we've evolved, we've probably evolved along similar lines to the different waves of migrants. What's, I think, been incredible and what inspires me about AMES, and we see it still today, is the ability of the organisation to have deep roots in the community, understand those changing needs, and so adapt and build new programs to meet what were the changing needs. For me, AMES in that sense is just part of the fabric of a cohesive and diverse community, and I'm incredibly proud of all of the work that we've done to make sure that we can connect newcomers to this amazing country. There's nothing better for me than when I go out to a community event and someone comes up to me and says that their mum or dad, and maybe now even grandparents, learn English with AMES, and we're kind of part of the family. It goes beyond being an organisation. It is part of people's lives and their story of settlement, and that's an incredibly privileged position to be in. There is certainly more work to do. We know that, at the moment with borders closed because of COVID, the challenges are incredibly difficult for families in terms of being able to settle now and find work and make sure that the children are in school and on a progression to meet their needs and dreams and aspirations and so on. So, the 70 years have always thrown up challenges, and I think just as migrants and refugees have an incredibly entrepreneurial, resilient spirit, I think AMES has that too and rises to those challenges.
AMES Australia was an integral part of the birth of multiculturalism, a term that was new in the 1970s, but which now is accepted as an accurate description of the cultural and ethnic diversity of contemporary Australia. In many ways, the story of AMES Australia is also the story of post-war immigration and multiculturalism. Since 1945, almost 8 million people from 180 countries have now made new lives in Australia. Today, almost a third of our population was born overseas. Almost half have at least one overseas-born parent. From supporting migrants from Europe in the post-war years to helping settle and integrate the more recent arrivals of refugees from Syria and Iraq, AMES Australia has always taken a strengths-based approach which recognises and harnesses the resilience of people new to this country and builds on their skills and experience.
My name is Firas. I'm from Syria. I came to Australia in August 2018 with my wife Ruba. We escaped the war from Syria that lasted too long there, and we didn't find any hope for our future, or we cannot survive anymore there. So we have arrived in August 2018, and we have been welcomed at the airport from AMES staff, and then they assigned us a case manager for me and my wife, which is they study our file and profile and see what's our education background, what we are planning to do, what's the shortcuts and the things that we can do in here, how to apply for our certificate to be recognized in Australia, how to start studying English language, and what's the pathway available in here. And then I heard that they are opening a position in AMES. So I write my resume with a cover letter and submit it. Then I had an interview and started. I started as computer system and network engineer, which is the same background what I was doing in Syria. And I had an experience about 4 years in Syria. And now I started my career here in Australia with AMES Australia. It's been about 2 years and a half now working in this position.
Over the decades, AMES Australia has also responded to urgent humanitarian crises. In the late 1990s, the organisation supported several hundred Kosovar families who were given safe haven in Australia during the brutal conflict in their homeland. And in the same year, AMES provided support for refugees fleeing violence in the former Indonesian province of East Timor after civil violence flared following a referendum on independence. The dual efforts, known as Operation Safe Haven, was one of the largest humanitarian exercises ever undertaken by a government agency. More recently, AMES has been working to support thousands of Afghans who were evacuated from Kabul in August and September last year following the Taliban's seizure of power. Around 2,000 evacuees arrived in just 15 days. They've been welcomed, housed and supported to start new lives in Australia. One of the evacuees was Jalal Ahmadzai.
I'm part of around 4,000 Afghan clients who were evacuated by the government of Australia upon the fall of the government. As you might have heard, the Afghan crisis, which resulted in the fall of the Afghan government on the 15th of August in 2021. As part of the long-term war in Afghanistan, which has been going on for a long time, the humanitarian crisis which ensued after the Taliban takeover has forced not me, but around well over 200 or 300,000 Afghans out of their homelands who fear for their lives, or mostly are the people who have worked with foreign forces or foreign governments during the 20 years of the lives of the Afghan Republic. Me personally, I studied at the American University of Afghanistan, which was an American university, constantly threatened by the Taliban forces. The Taliban insurgents carried out a mass terrorist attack on our university in 2016. That was one of the reasons why we had to leave. Also, I personally had worked with the American forces for about 2 years in a project at the Ministry of Defense. Mostly the Afghans who have worked with the US forces or any other foreign country were in danger after the Taliban takeover, because the Taliban ideology was is a very extremist kind of ideology. We moved to Pakistan on the 20th of August, 5 days after the takeover. During those 5 days, we got constant calls from the ministry, from the American embassy, from the Australian embassy to get to the airport, but we couldn't get there because of the mayhem. But on the 20th of August, we managed to get into the airport and go to Pakistan. And from there, we came to Australia. After arriving in the temporary accommodation, I went into the AMES office, and since I knew English, and a lot of the Afghan nationals were having difficulty communicating in English, I offered to work as a volunteer interpreter at AMES Australia, and they welcomed me, and because they were in need of interpreters who could help the case managers and the general AMES staff in communicating with the Afghans. So I ended up being a volunteer with AMES for about 3 months. And during the 3 months, I got to meet some wonderful people at AMES. And then that's when I got to know about a job vacancy with the development and innovation team. And I applied for the position, and after going through the interview and the necessary recruitment process, I was able to land the position, and so I'm now employed at AMES full-time with the innovation and marketing team. It's going really well.
Each year, AMES Australia assists more than 30,000 people to find their place in Australian society, and we touch the lives of more than 250,000 people from Australia's diverse communities. Our organisation's programs are aimed at fostering a sense of belonging among our clients, and they recognise that social and economic participation are key ingredients in maintaining social cohesion. Our network of more than 600 staff and 500 volunteers, 43% of whom were born overseas and collectively speak more than 90 languages, work to create community links between our clients and the broader society. In supporting nearly 4 million people new to these shores on their settlement journeys, we are proud to have contributed to the transformation of Australia's economic, cultural and social life. And under our vision of full participation for all in a cohesive and diverse society, the work continues.